Welcome to the design studio. Today we are going to have some fun. I want you to take a look at the images on the screen. You're going to see a lot of these houses have outdated landscaping, right? You got a big bush here, small here. There's no real flow. It's kind of hodgepodge, right? I want to teach you something called the flow fix. And this is an easy way to create balance and a cohesive front yard landscape. It's going to be awesome. Let's go. So first, we're going to take some bad examples so that you can see some of the common mistakes that a lot of landscapers and homeowners make. Then we're going to flip it, and we're going to look at some good examples, some good front yard landscapes that have excellent flow. And finally, you and I are going to work a real world example together so that we can show the flow fix step by step so that you know exactly what to do if you want to transform your front yard landscaping. Let's get into it. So here's bad example number one. We've got abrupt height jumps. So if you look at this, you're gonna see how the heights jump all over the place. You got tall, short, tall, short. There's no real rhythm. It's like listening to music without a beat. You know, you got this big guy here, then there's something line of small here, then another thing pops up here, then you got everything's competing. It's just kind of a mess, right? Let's go to the next one. Okay, right here, you got random gaps or holes in the bed. Okay, so what I'm talking about here are gaps break your eye's path, okay? So the planting, it starts, it stops again, starts here. The viewer has to literally like resolve the composition every time. And it's something as subtle and as simple as this spot, like right here and right here. You see how there's just a little bit of a gap there? It looks like there might be a tree on the corner here, but you can barely see it. There's a gap there. There's opportunity to like put something to anchor here, maybe something here, but you got these bushes that are flowing into the sidewalk. You got a gap here, gap here. There's nothing on the other side of the driveway. It's just kind of outdated and it's just unfinished, right? Let's go to the next one. So this one would be no line or shape leading the eye. So when you're looking at this, you see that it's coming around here, but then I honestly can't tell if it's jumping back out and going around. And let me zip in on this. The reason that you can't see the line is because these plants and bushes, it looks like they're planted literally right up on the edge, which doesn't create any definition or space between the lawn visually from the street. So you want to make sure that the bed has a nice clear line of sight so that it's easy to follow and it looks professional. Finally, we've got competing focal points. So a focal point is something that you want to have your eye drawn to. And when you've got 2 or 3 different ones in one space, it gets confusing, busy, and it just doesn't look good. It actually takes away. So the focal points here, this bed in the middle could be a focal point, although it's kind of a mess. There's a tree on the end, but you kind of can see it, kind of can't. But the real one is the front yard entry, these spiral junipers, and then you've got an arborvitae literally right next to it, competing for it. So if it was just cleaned up and had a little bit more of that flow, that cohesiveness, it would make a world of difference. Now I want to show you what true flow looks like. So the first thing is smooth transitions of heights. Notice how your eye glides from the low plants to the medium to the taller ones. There's no sudden jumps. Everything is intentional and purposeful, where you've got a nice balance, a nice flow of height and texture. So you've got the nice boxwoods, then you jump over to kind of a feature plant. It looks like maybe a butterfly bush, I'm not quite sure. And then even behind that, where we're framing up the door, you got something taller on this side and something over here. I would like those to be a little bit taller if I'm being a little picky here, but the idea is you're not competing and you can see everything very clearly. All right, let's go to the next one. Next is a full continuous planting beds. So what I mean by that is it's very cohesive. There's no awkward holes. Everything connects. Everything feels very intentional, and there's no choppiness to it. So you see that this space is nicely filled, and you got this kind of rinse and repeat of the various plants. You got 3 or 4 feature plants, boxwood, lemongrass, looks like liriope, but it's very clean and very nicely done, okay? Next one, this is a project we did a couple of years ago in St. Louis, where this was just really this house. There wasn't this addition over here. There was no hardscaping, no beds. It was just grass, and it wanted a facelift. It's a nice corner lot. So what we're talking about here are clean, intentional lines. As you can see, This entire landscape is made out of this beautiful, curvy, well-defined line that goes through the hardscape and boom, connects even over to the other side. And then we even have that nice line on the other side, but it's very obvious. You can see the spacing between the plants, the edge of the bed, and the grass. Obviously, these plants just got put in. They will get bigger, and they are now, but it's a very intentional line, and it flows very nicely. Okay. And the final one is one clear focal point. We're not competing with focal points. Very obvious what the focal point is here. It's a beautiful little water feature. That could be an urn, that could be a boulder, that could be a cool tree, and then everything around it supports it. Okay, so you see this, and then everything else is nice and smooth, and it flows incredibly well. So why the flow fix matters is because it actually increases the value of your home. Real estate agents, they've done a lot of studies where they say a good front yard landscape that is nice and clean and flows can increase the value of your house between 8 and 15%. And buyers just can't tell why. Well, I'll tell you why. It's because it looks more intentional, it's soft, it's visually appealing, it looks more expensive. But you know what? It doesn't cost that much to do a lot of these things. We talked about focal points, clear lines, not overcrowding things. These are simple things that you can do or you hire somebody to do. But the flow fix is the real deal. And now I want to take one of those images and we are going to do a design together where we're going to take all those principles inside the flow fix. We're going to finish a landscape the right way, how it should have been done. It's gonna be awesome. All right, so we're gonna take everything we learned and we are actually gonna tackle this guy right here. It's not awful by any means, but there are a couple things that we talked about earlier that we can make it so much better. And I wanna show you how you take a house that doesn't quite have that flow and simplify it, make it look beautiful, and man, it's gonna be fun. So we're gonna do this in real time, which means, grab some popcorn, grab a bag of chips, whatever the heck you want, and we're gonna do this. So let's get in there, and we're gonna start with some photoshopping just to get all this stuff out of here, and then we'll get in there. Okay, so we got the photoshopping out of there. As you can see, we just want to create a blank template, a blank space as well. So let's start off with the first thing, which we're going to start with the clean continuous, like that clean intentional line. And what I want to do is have a little fun with this, a little bit different than the layout here. I think taking this around here, bringing it around, and then creating a purposeful curve out by the sidewalk for that focal point. Anytime you're doing curves, anytime you're doing these intentional lines, when I do a pop out, it's usually for a reason. It's a focal point, it's a tree, it's getting the beds off away from the house, creating depth. And then I think I want to do something fun where we actually continue that line over onto the other side of the driveway and create an opportunity to plant here and here. So it's going to create depth and balance, and that flow, that line is going to go all the way. So here we go. Let's get in here. We're just gonna pick a mulch. I think we can go with a brown mulch here. I like the brown. And usually when I pick a mulch, it's brown or black. And typically on the darker, you wanna play up the architecture of your house, a little bonus tip. So if you've got a lot of browns in your house, maybe that dark brown would be a good fit. But if you've got some blacks or you wanna go a little bit more contemporary, sometimes that black is gonna be a good fit. There's never a right or a wrong answer. I think it's just about how you feel and how the design is playing out. So as we're doing it here, let's just create kind of a purposeful curve on that front part so we can pull that out for a tree, and we'll clean all this up. And then coming across, I think I want to just make these beds a little bit deeper. And then this is where I want that curve to come out even more. Like as you can see, I'm creating some decent sized beds, but that's where I want that focal point to be. So as I'm coming across for that focal point, I could either click back in and come back around, or I could bring this bed all the way over here, which I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm just gonna make these beds a little bit bigger, and it's gonna create a lot more depth and interest in this design. So let's just take it over here. And then let's start to bring it with a little bit of curve at the end. So it looks like it's magically going through the driveway, and then we're going to pick up the line on the other side. And hopefully I didn't make these too big. And you can always adjust if you feel like, that bed's too big. I wouldn't want one that big. You can obviously go back and make it the size you want. But for these purposes, let's just go big or go home. What do you say? And click this over here and here, and boom. Now we've got a brand new, beautiful bed that we can do a lot with. And I'm gonna come back around and clean this up. But in the meantime, let's bring the other line. So if we imagine this line going through the driveway and clicking, bam, I'd say maybe about here. And now I want to create a bed on this side. It's really going to welcome you on the way up the driveway. Anytime you spend money, you want to see your investment. You want to be proud of your investment. And coming home from the driveway, I think, is one of the bigger misses that I see a lot of people do. Is they'll put stuff in the front perimeter of the house, but they won't exactly think about what are you going to be driving up to. You know, this is an easy way to create more interest. So let's click this guy and we'll bring him here and here. Now we've got a bed on this side. We've got our beds up front. Let's see what that looks like. I don't like it because this line comes across here, but it almost feels like this back line is the one that should come and should all be together. So I'm actually going to extend this up, and I think it's going to flow a lot better. And these are the little kind of adaptations that you do. If you get out there and you end up doing this yourself, get out a hose, spray paint, you can like map everything out. This is why you hire a designer, so you have the playbook in the first place. It's something we do. Love to help you. It's usually the pinned comment below if you want to go check it out. But starting with the plans, so you're not just out there and grabbing plants and have no idea what's going on. It's a good play. All right, so let's do that. We got a little opening there so you can walk around to get to the back. We're not going to close this off completely. And then since it's such a long bed, I could make a straightaway here, or it could have a couple curves, but I think we're just going to keep it simple. Less is more, right? So let's get rid of these guys and try to simplify this a little bit. And I think that might be okay. Let's see how that looks in comparison. It's pretty good. I still feel like it needs to go even deeper to match over there. So I'm going to pull it down just a little bit more. And if that's the case, if this thing is getting closed off, if there wouldn't be enough room between this bush and here, we put it there and put some stepping stones so you have a transition through the bed. But I still think there's going to be enough room. And now this line is coming across this line, and I think that looks a lot better. Okay, there you go. I like that. Much, much cleaner. So now we got lots of opportunity to plant and create flow and have a lot of fun with this thing. So there you go. I'm going to do a little cleaning up, touching up with the curbs, and then we'll get on to the next tip. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. We got lots of opportunity here. And remember, with the flow fix, you don't necessarily have to make big beds. You could tighten these things up, but the point is to define the line. That's the first thing. Okay, now we got one clear focal point that we want to put in here. And when we were doing our curves, what did we do? Well, we made an intentional spot for it right out here, right outside the walkway. And what I want to do is I kind of want to mimic that other photo where they had that really cool urn. It was like a water bubbler. But I think I'm just going to put a cool pot here, and then we'll have all the supporting plants around it. So it's very obvious as you walk up, man, that is such a cool feature. It's a focal point, right? So let's get in here and let's grab a cool pot. And the pot that we grab, I mean, it could be color, it could just be white, it could have a lot of color, of course, above. There is no right or wrong here. But if we wanted to have some fun and make it very obvious, maybe we pick something like a red or a green. This green one's kind of cool. I don't know. I'm kind of feeling this red one, but I want the size to be a little different. So let me mess with the scale. We're going to put this in here. And then as I zip in, I want to kind of squeeze this down and widen it. So let's make it a little wider. There you go. And bring the height down a little bit. And kind of have it on that catty corner. So let's back it up. And yeah, that is pretty cool. And it definitely pops. And you can see all the lines. You can see that focal point from the street. We are definitely playing the game of the flow fix. Okay, the next one, smooth transition of heights. So in a nutshell, what that means is let's get some trees in there. Let's get some heights so that everything isn't at the same level. So what I want to do is focus on this corner because we popped that out. Great place for a tree. That's called the anchor, the corner effect. So you have something here, and then you want to have something on the other side. They did have this existing bush, which we could play off. Just the texture of the bush, we could have something very similar on there. But we also, whatever we put here, we can bring it all the way down onto this side over here. And when you are planting next to a driveway, just make sure you got enough feet factored in for whatever tree it is that the root system isn't going to get into the driveway and buckle it up and crack everything. So there's lots of ornamental trees that can be selected. This is another reason to hire a designer because they're going to know all the trees and the shrubs and the things that are going to work for not only your climate, but as far as the size and you know, it's a whole thing, right? So let's get in there. And I think I want to play off this evergreen effect of that bush because I'm going to keep that bush. And one of my go-tos is a European hornbeam. I love them, but I think it's going to do well. And it's one of those trees that gets a nice height, but isn't going to get too tall, okay? Or is it going to get too wide? Sorry, it will get some height to it, which is great because that's what we want to do on the corners. So let's drop this guy in and boom. I think that's a really nice anchor on the corner there because we are working with the heights now. And then let's take another European hornbeam and let's put it down somewhere here on the other side of the driveway. And of course, for scale, it's going to be a lot bigger, right? And maybe we drop it in right about there and have a little bit of room here. Maybe I'll put a boulder there or something like that. So we got a couple trees in. Let's get a couple more, but we don't want to take away from this focal point, right? We got the height of these trees, and I feel like maybe we can drop in one more to just kind of tie it all together. Maybe it does go in the back. And if we want to use the same trees, I don't think that's a horrible thing. Could have a little different ones, but I want to play off of a couple of bushes and shrubs. So the next thing is those full continuous planting beds, okay? So this is going to be when we are going to fill the space. We're going to use layering. We're going to use things that aren't going to compete for space. We don't want to leave those spaces that we talked about where it's like everything is put together and then you have this like just kind of random space. Now, I'm not saying that it's not okay to have negative space in a design, which is just mulch or gravel, but let's make sure it's intentional if we're going to do it. So starting off, let's go to our focal point. And let's put something pretty in there, and then we want to do that supporting cast around it, correct? So as far as some pretty plants, let's just pick some perennials to put in there and make it look really pretty. And what I want to do is I want to pick a perennial or something that is really going to stand out. Could even be some kind of evergreen, honestly. But let's pick... Let's just act like we're in the Midwest, right? So something that's pretty universal across the entire country, most zones. We're not going to pick anything tropical because, of course, we're going to have trouble with that in some other climates. And I've already got ideas for the supporting cast, the things that we could put around there. All right. Sorry, I know I'm digging around, eating up the clock a little bit. Sometimes it's worth it for that one cool focal point, right? Instead of the pot, it could be a Japanese maple, like a crimson clean, could be a boulder. Like I said, there's no right or wrong on this, but I want something that's going to look really, really pretty. You know, I have an idea. What is it called? Hukra? No, I got that wrong. Potato vines would be really cool. Maybe a potato bush, like a cool tree, even a small, dwarf tree. There's lots of trees like this. We could put this guy in here actually, and that might actually work. I'm gonna squeeze it down. Nope, I don't like it. It just, that's not what I'm going for here. Let's do some sweet potato vines. Did I say sweet potato? I meant potato, but you know, potato. All right, we'll put that guy in, take off the shadow, flip him around, and that looks nice. And then we can have some kind of colorful flower popping up past that. So let's see what we can get into that I think would be a neat play. Let's just pick this pretty flower. Why not? Speed it up a little. So we got the pinks, we got the greens, and that is obviously a focal point from here. Definitely can see that. Okay, now let's get the supporting cast in there. So to start out, why don't we do some shrubs and then we'll fill around our focal point. We don't want to busy this thing up. We just want to create that flow and have it nice and pretty and clean. So I want to drop in some azaleas. I think we're going to play off some purples, some greens, and some pinks for this design. And that's just where my brain's going. A lot of the times when I'm doing designs, I don't want to pick too many colors. I don't want to make it too busy. And I also want to pick shrubs that aren't going to compete with the window lines and cover them up. These azaleas will probably go right up to this edge at maturity. So I'll show it about halfway through. So let's drop these guys in right here just to fill up under the window. And that should look really nice in time, right? So we got those guys. And then another layer that I want to add into here is maybe some evergreens, because things will go dormant and it won't look the best in the wintertime. So let's go over one of my go-tos. This is soft touch holly. Love those. Even these pyramid hollies, there's all kinds of different ways, but these could be used to anchor a front door. So they're almost like a way to create a focal point. I don't want to get too clever. So let's grab this guy. We'll put some soft touch hollies in as another level, another row. And we'll give a little space in between. Just like that. And then I'm going to balance this out on the other side of the driveway as well. So let's grab some more of these hollies. And we could almost do like a zigzag, like an S shape, if we want to, just to kind of keep it a little bit interesting versus just a straight line. So maybe I kind of have these guys going in a little bit of an S shape around. And then what we could do is we could pocket something in between those spots to get some height, some additional height and some interest. So this little spot right here and this little spot right here. So why don't we work that right now? Let's grab a colorful shrub that will get a little bit of height and get another layer in there. And we're playing off the pinks, purples, and I actually think maybe a lilac might be nice. So let's get a lilac bush. Let's see how that looks. Yeah. And it creates almost this privacy, a little bit of definition between the neighbor's house and this house. Okay. So we got one lilac there. And then let's flip this around. We have another one right here. And I feel like these could get pulled down a little bit so that the spacing is a little bit more spread out. It's tough to tell sometimes with the dimension of these things, but that looks nice. Okay, so now we got some height, we got some filled in areas, and now what we want to do is just keep that continuous planting. So we're going to fill around this focal point with those supporting casts, and then I want to take that and I almost want to bring it throughout this bed so it balances on both sides, it flows, right? So I think this is an opportunity for a couple more bushes, and then we can do pops of perennials in here. So actually I think it's all perennials because we're going to spotlight that focal point. I don't want to put too many bushes in and compete. So I think some sage would be nice. This garden sage, it's a nice one that can support all this, and it adds a little bit of pop, a little bit of interest. So let's do a couple of those. Nice. And then let's Let's see, what else do I want to do? Oh, I typed it in. That's not going to help, is it? Okay, let's go back up to perennials. Why don't we do, if you get some bulbs, gladiolus are usually a really nice thing. You could do dianthus. We're trying to just get some different color combinations and textures in there. Actually, how about some grasses? Maybe even some fescue would be a better call if I could spell it. There we go. Some blue fescue. It's got a nice color to it, a nice texture, and it supports this. It wouldn't take away from it, right? Because that's what we don't want to do. We don't want to make this so that it's too busy up in the front. It's just something that's very pretty and soft. So you don't want to do too many plants because all of a sudden now your eye is all over the place and it doesn't know what to look at. So we've got some sage. We've got some blue fescue. And I feel like even though we've got our one focal point, we could grab a boulder and drop that in as well. And it could be something that's just lower to the ground, more of like a flat stone, so that it's not competing with our focal point. That's very, very important. That's the one thing of that design flow technique that we learn, that we don't want to have competing focal points, especially in areas where we're obviously trying to draw your attention to. All right, so we got some grasses, some fescue, some sage. We got a nice boulder here, and then we've got our focal point. And maybe we create a little bit of space there to make sure that you can obviously see the line between the grass and this focal point jumps out. So I like how that looks. What I want to do is I want to take this and I want to rinse and repeat it. So we're going to take a couple fescue and we're going to bring them down to the edge over here, maybe just a couple of them. And I want to take this boulder, but now that we don't have anything to really compete with and we've got the heights of the European hornbeams, there's no way a boulder's going to be that tall. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Hopefully grandma isn't living with us and she's going to smoke her car on the boulder. But, maybe if you're a bad driver, don't put a boulder by the driveway. But other than that, I think that you are in business and this would be a really nice feature to have. And if you want to soften it up even more, grab some of those sages and bring them down by the boulder. And now we've got this rinse and repeat effect going on where you got a little pop here, you got a pop here. And I almost feel like we can take this, and when you're planting, you typically are going to do in 3s, 5s, 7s. Well, what we've got here is we've got our supporting cast, and let's make it of an odd number of 3s. So we got 1, 2, and let's put another one in the back here. So now it really brings everything together and it creates a lot of depth with the design. And we're just going to rinse and repeat some of those key plants. We got our grasses. We'll have our sage, and then we'll move on to some of the final features. Actually, I don't feel like I need that one. But there's really no right or wrong with how many you want to pick. I think it's just about creating cohesiveness through planting, through the lines, through the focal points, everything that we talked about and we've learned so far. Okay, so we've got a bed over here, we've got a bed over here, we've got our focal point, we've got a lot of the foundational plants, and I feel like we don't have to fill every bit of it. Like I said, there is a time and a place for negative space, which I feel like this negative space does well. But one thing I am seeing is behind here and over in this corner, that's kind of a dead zone. I actually want to keep that clean and simple. I do feel like you could do some plantings here. Maybe it's some annuals. So we'll just play off the pink color and this kind of green that we're going with. Let's see if we can drop just a couple more plants over here to mix it up a little bit. So let's go into annuals. And coleus is kind of popping in my brain. Let's see what else. I do like the coleus. Maybe we'll grab some pink coleus and we'll bring that over there. And that'll add another dimension. You see the pink playing off the pink that we have in our focal point? That's another cool tip, another way to bring flow to something. So let's drop a couple of these guys in here. We don't want to get too busy. And we'll probably wrap this thing up with some landscape lighting and call it a day. Let's back it up. Okay. I like it. I mean, there's no right or wrong with how you do these things. There's so many ways to plant. And what you really should start with is when you hire a landscape designer, you start getting this plan together. What are some of the bushes, trees, shrubs that you know you like, the colors you like? And then off of that and off the zone that you live in, then you could start to put these things together. This design could look 100,000 different ways, right? This is just what we came up with based on a couple of the FlowFix principles that we wanted to do. And it looks very nice. It's much better and it's much more organized than it was before, where you couldn't really tell what's going on, okay? So now let's just light up our investment. We'll drop some lights in there. You want to put up lights on your trees, path lights along the paths and different areas so you're not falling and taking a header. And like I said, if grandma's living with you, she needs to see what's going down. And then we'll call it a day. And then you also want to get spotlights on those boulders as well. Those look really cool lit up at night. So we don't want to compete with the real focal point, which is this guy right here, right? That lit up at night. It's going to look really, really nice as well. And of course you could do up lights on the house as well. There's all kinds of directions for landscape lighting. We've got lots of videos on landscape lighting, and I will have many more coming. So we'll get into that later. So if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. If you're enjoying seeing a couple different design principles and want to continue to learn a couple things, we could work it together. I'd love to have you. It'd be awesome. Okay. Finally, we got this feller. We're going to make sure he's behind there. And these are the path lights. And these are going to be on your walkway areas, okay? And you could put them out on the edge of the beds like this if you also want to have a little bit more lighting. And of course, down the driveway, right? It's all about you and your preferences. So, I'm gonna move myself out of the way a little bit. Boom. So we've got the before, we've got the after, or this is the after light, and then you had the before. Looks pretty cool. Had a lot of fun with you on this. Remember, the FlowFix is about creating balance and comfortability and flow across the yard, right? So if you want to go see the one design example that we had earlier, the actual project, go check this video out right here. If you want to learn another design technique that might be the perfect fit for your front yard, go check out this one. And if you are interested in a custom design, I'd love to help you. It's the pinned comment below. Also do design consultations. I'm here to help. This is Bobby K saying creation is everything. So go out and create. See you on the next video.
Never stop, I'll get it if I want it. Gotta make to myself a promise. I won't quit, keep going till I got it. I won't give up till